Guess what day it is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
That's the Geico camel celebrating hump day. Maybe you've seen that commercial camel walking through the office. It's hilarious. I don't know who they got to do the voice on that, but that was perfect. Anyway, it is hump day. We're over the hump, over halfway through your work week. Glad you are in the conversation with us. A couple of things. I want to jump into this Martin Luther King Day and talk a little bit about that. A couple of items before we get there. You want to know what a judge in Montana thinks the rape of a 14-year-old girl is worth 30 days in jail. Now, in my mind, this ought to be a castration. It ought to be life imprisonment, no possibility of parole, maybe even the death penalty. I believe in the death penalty for the forcible rape of a child. I think we ought to just put these people out of our misery. They've forfeited their right to live out their life because of the damage they've done to the sexual integrity of a helpless young child. Now, this guy took advantage of a 14-year-old student. She was 14. He was a teacher. She wound up committing suicide as a result of this relationship with this teacher. Judge gives him 30 days in jail. She's dead. He's off after 30 days, scot-free. Now, we've talked about this Bradley Manning deal where this guy's completely confused about who he is. Now, he's a he. We are never going to refer to Bradley Manning as a she. He is a he. He is a he in every single solitary cell of his body. His DNA was male from the moment he was conceived. He was male by DNA when he was born. He is male all of his life. He's male now. He will be a male when he dies. So he is a he. Scientifically, biologically, medically, he is a he. And so we're going to call him a he. Now, it's the other side, Associated Press, New York Times, they're out there calling him a she. And they accuse us, this is amazing to me, they accuse us of being anti-science when they're the ones that are out there ignoring biological reality, they're ignoring genetic reality, they're ignoring medical reality, they're ignoring scientific reality by calling him a she, and they want to accuse us of being the people that are anti-science. They're ignoring everything we know, for instance, on global warming. I got a story in the stack here somewhere. Satellite temperature data for 16 years and 8 months now has shown absolutely no global warming. It's flatlined. In fact, there is a cooling trend. This is the satellite readings. Satellite temperature readings absolutely flat with a decline, a cooling trend over the last 16 years and 8 months. I realize what this means. I've mentioned it before. But what this means, ladies and gentlemen, there is no child on the face of the planet that has experienced global warming. Do you understand that? There isn't a single solitary child under the age of 17, under the age of 18, anywhere in the world who has experienced global warming. They've never experienced it. They've never seen it. They don't have any firsthand experience with global warming because it just has not occurred. And the last time a hurricane, a Category 5 hurricane made land in the United States was 17 years ago, 1995, almost 18 years ago. And the last time a Category 5 hurricane made landfall in the United States, 1995. So there is no child living in the United States of America that has ever had any experience with a Category 5 hurricane. And yet Al Gore's out there saying, oh, no, global warming is going to cause all these more extreme weather events. In fact, they're talking about going to Category 6. There have been so many horrific hurricanes, they're looking at going to a Category 6, which was a total, absolute, bald-faced lie. I mean, they checked with the people at the National Hurricane Center, whatever it's called, and they said, no, we're not thinking of going to Category 6. In fact, Category 5 is unlimited. Category 5 starts at a certain miles per hour for the wind, and then it goes basically on to infinity. And so, yet these people have, we're basing our view on satellite readings. We're basing our view on data. We're basing our view on the growth of Antarctic sea ice. We're basing our growth on the fact that there's more global sea ice now than there has been in decades. So we're basing our view of global warming on science, and they're not, and that they have the audacity to accuse us of being anti-science. So anyway, Bradley Manning, he's involved in this gender fight. He wants you and I to pay for his hormone treatments, and he's not talking at this point about a sex change operation, but I assume he'll be wanting to stick the taxpayers with the bill for that. if it comes. So New York Times and Associated Press, they've decided to call him a she. Now, CNN is holding out. CNN executives announced that its reporters and anchors would continue to call Manning a he because he is not taking hormone therapy. He's not undergoing any medical procedure that would change his gender. So they're going to call him a he. And, of course, Fox News is doing it. Fox News got in trouble yesterday because they were going into a commercial break with the Aerosmith song, Dude Looks Like a Lady, playing in the background, and they had a picture of Bradley Manning with his blonde bombshell wig as Chelsea playing the Aerosmith song, Dude Looks Like a Lady. Now, here's MSNBC. You want to understand why their ratings are absolutely in the tank. Listen to this anchor as she gets confused. This is about a minute. It's 1 minute and 1 second. And listen carefully as she goes back and forth between he and she. She does not know what to do with Bradley Manning. She knows he's a he, so she wants to call him a he. When she's not thinking about it, she calls him a he. Then she'll catch herself and try to refer to him as a she. So let's listen. MSNBC anchor, she's as confused about Bradley Manning's gender as he is.
And in terms of now his mission to basically, I don't know how far he wants to go in reassigning his gender, but he is asking for hormone therapy. Now, the military does not provide hormone therapy or sex reassignment surgery. Manning's lawyer says that he is going to do everything in his power to get the treatment for Manning. Do you see the military changing its stance on this, given the very public nature of this case?
And of course, we're using the he, she here because I think we're all saying, like, really?
Well, I mean, the reason that I'm actually using she is because that's what his request was through his attorney.
Yes.
So we're just trying to honor that request. But in terms of, you're talking about the motivations, you says that clearly he's very arrogant. But do you think it's that, or do you think there's also a big concern on her part that she will now spend the next at least 7 years in an all-male facility? Do you think that the government, though, has any responsibility to protect his security in being in an all-male facility if he now identifies as a woman, that there could be questions about her safety and that there is an obligation to protect your prisoners from any imminent harm? Because that's not part of the sentence.
So the poor lady just cannot make up her mind. And then they wonder, I mean, it's a he now, and then it's a she, it's a he, she, it's a his, and it's a her. They got to protect his safety. Wait a minute, it's a she, so got to protect her safety in an all-male facility. So she's get completely confused, and they wonder why nobody's watching MSNBC any longer. Now, by the way, I want to let you know I've got a column up today at rightlyconcerned.com. It's something we talked about yesterday, so I'm not going to go through it again or belabor the point. But the column I have up at rightlyconcerned.com, the title of the column is If the Bible Had Been Followed, There Would Have Been No Slavery in the United States. And I walked through some of what we talked about yesterday, Exodus 21:16, which provides the death penalty for anybody who's involved in the slave trade. Remember, that's a direct quote from the Mosaic Code. Whoever steals a man, you kidnap a man, you go into the interior of Africa and you steal a man, and you sell him to some slave trader on the coast, and anyone found in possession of him, that is, you buy him, you transport him to the New World, what should be done to him according to Moses? He shall be put to death. Exodus 21:16. He shall be put to death. If you steal a man, if you sell him, if you buy him, if you're found in possession of him, if you transport him, if you use him on your plantation, if you are found in possession of a man who was stolen and sold, you will be put to death. Exodus 21:16. So if you want to read more about that, you can go to the column. And you just think about, and the first slave ship came to America in 1619. Talked about this yesterday, but if the Bible had been followed, when that slave ship showed up in 1619, if the Bible had been followed, we followed the Quran instead of the Bible. The Quran legitimizes and endorses slavery. Muhammad believed in slavery, even sex slavery. He supports it. He honors it. It's morally correct under the Quran. So if we had followed the Bible and the New Testament, 1 Timothy 1:9 and 10 also have a prohibition against any participation in the slave trade. It's a criminal enterprise from day one. So the Judeo-Christian tradition, both in the Old Testament, in Exodus, and in the New Testament, 1 Timothy 1, condemn slavery as it was practiced in the United States of America. Now think of the pain that we would have been preserved ourselves from as a culture if we had simply followed the Bible. We would not have had all of the discord over the institution of slavery. We wouldn't have had 600,000 American lives, blood shed on the battlefields of the Civil War in order to emancipate the slaves. We wouldn't have all of the civil and social and racial unrest that we've experienced virtually since the first slave ship landed on American soil. So we committed our first national sin, which is slavery. Our national sin now is abortion. We've done the same thing. We've followed voices other than the clear, plain teaching of Scripture, and that's why we have lapsed into the national sin of abortion. That is our national sin today, just as slavery was up until 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation. So if we had followed the Scripture instead of following the Quran, imagine how much different America's history and social equilibrium and social tranquility would be today. And as I say at the tagline in the column, biblical Christianity, as always, is not the problem. It is the solution. Now, I want to finish this segment by reading a little bit from a piece I found on CNS News. Very, very important piece, because it goes back to some of Martin Luther King's speeches in 1955. In fact, a speech that Martin Luther King gave 4 days after Rosa Parks was arrested in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm going to just start into this, and we'll come out of this and finish it up on the other side of the break. But what Martin Luther King Jr. said in this sermon that he preached at Holt Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, first day of the bus boycott. He organized a bus boycott of the bus system in Montgomery, Alabama. Where do they have the meeting? They have it in a Baptist church. That's where they have the meeting. So you hear these people talking about the separation of church and state, and we've got to keep politics out of the church, and we got to keep politics out of the pulpit. Go tell that to Martin Luther King Jr. There would have been no civil rights movement if it were not for Baptist clergy using their pulpits and using their churches to take a stand for righteousness. Focal Point, AFR Talk.